of these. Okay, we are now live, and as a result of being live, I have a new phone policy, specifically the live on air policy that I want to go over real quick. I know how distracting they are. It sucks. It's made me into the worst procrastinator in the world. And I know you guys have probably similar opinions as well. But because of how distracting they are and how close we are to the end of the year, among a bunch of other things, just being future ready in general, whenever we're on the air, we are now following the state testing rules or state testing thing where your phones need to be zipped up into your backpacks whenever we are live on the air, which would be right now, for example. So your phones need to be zipped away completely. While the floor is fine. As long as it's out of your field of view, out of sight, out of mind is my goal with this right now. So this is something that I'm gonna talk to your guardians about so that they're on the same page. But if it becomes an issue where you're finding it challenging to follow the live on air sign, you and I can talk, we can talk with your guardians. It's not something I'm super looking forward to, but it is a measure that's gonna help us stay engaged for these next 40 days. Less than 50 days left for school is crazy. I did not realize we had so few. It is going to fly. So this is only applicable, this only matters when we're on the air. As soon as we go off the air, the time is yours. If you would rather use it to be on your phone or do things that aren't working towards something, that is your call. Just keep in mind that that action may have a consequence of, you don't finish your work or you don't get it in on time, whatever. That is your call. You guys are almost adults, pretty much adults. And I will treat you as such, but when it's off the air, it's your time. So just keep that in mind. We did the Monday morning message. There's no need to restart. But with the such few school days left, your first deadline is tonight. So this says unit 6, but that's for graphic design. Anything assigned from the start of the semester up until we went to break on the 5th will not be accepted after midnight tonight. You can turn in anything. Done is better than perfect, okay? 50%, 40%, 60%, right? Those percentages, those grades don't look awesome on an assignment. I know that, but it looks way better than a 0, okay? Done is better than perfect. This is a super useful lesson for me to learn as an adult, especially working on perfectionism. That's something that I know you guys can relate to. Getting something done, at least partially, you can pick it up later. If you haven't started or you haven't turned it in, your coworkers, your team members, your group mates, they can't work with anything that's not there. So done is better than perfect. Trust me, I've had a lot of jobs. A lot of them, all of them are collaborative. Okay, getting something halfway done beats getting it not done at all. So I will take anything up until, or from the start of the semester up until we went to break on the 5th. There will still be late penalties. You'll still get a decent amount of points, but you will get points is the big thing. So done is better than perfect for anything we've assigned up until this point. Keeping that in mind, we are starting our one-on-one practice interviews over these next 2 weeks, starting tomorrow with you guys. There's a few things that you need to know before we go into that. We're going to start with attire. So there are so many ways that we are communicating, especially ways that are unintentional, right? Attire, how you dress yourself, how you present yourself, is one of the quickest ways that people are going to judge you. It's unfortunately a very judgy world that we live in. And when you're in an interview with the purpose of communicating your best skills, talking yourself up, making yourself look good, your attire is the quickest way that you can do that. And this is something that I'm going to be grading you on for your mock interview. There's 2 really consistent types of dress that you'll hear the terms thrown around, depending on your position, depending on your the direction you want to go with your working life. And that's going to be business casual or professional. I'm wearing casual. A lot of us are wearing casual right now. So there are things, it flexes. As the world changes, so do some of the requirements, so do some of the things that we are really kind of caring about, focusing on. But interviewing, emailing, getting a job, kind of doing a lot of business level things is still evolving, but it's a little bit behind the times sometimes. So when you're in an interview, especially, it doesn't have to be every single day at this job, should you get the job. But when you're in an interview, you want to look your best possible. And this is a great place to start practicing with our one-on-one sort of situations. So what I like about these links that I've got here is that they have examples. Business casual is basically one step above your everyday comfy clothes. Stuff like collared shirts, longer skirts, less kind of casual or like street style shoes, streetwear shoes. Basically just putting a little bit of effort into looking nice, looking professional, looking some type of presentable is some other terms that maybe you've heard thrown around. So it's typically going to be your button downs, nicer sweaters, blouses, Henleys or polos. These are, typical top sort of wears. Longer dresses, longer skirts are going to communicate that more business casual aspect. Closed-toed shoes are a big one. I consider these closed-toed shoes the Burt clogs, but most people would consider, or most people would think in the direction of like dressier shoes, loafers, right? Just generally nice looking things. Here's a definition of each of the business casual rules for these different industries. If you want kind of just a general idea, I know a lot of you are interested in service industry positions, as well as there's some finance in there, definitely some entertainment. There's a few future teachers in here, if I remember correctly. So these are good breakdowns of what business casual means in general to some of these industries. But sometimes if you're feeling stuck, this applies to more than just how you dress. Knowing what not to do is almost as important, if not equally important, to knowing what to wear. So this breakdown of the things that you should avoid will kind of naturally lead you to a conclusion of what business casual could become. So these are the things that you don't want to wear to your mock interview. And I can, if you forgot what time you signed up for, I can check after this. You want to avoid these things that are going to communicate that they're going to communicate things that maybe you don't intend in the bad way, right? Or not the bad way, but the less positive, less ideal sort of way that an interview sort of serves to conduct, right? So these are things that you want to avoid when you're going into an interview, because they generally kind of send off a message that you might not want your interviewer to interpret, right? So lots of tips here, other cool stuff. The other realm of types of dress, all the jobs that I've had have been a business casual or casual, but you definitely want to step up your dress for your interview so that you look presentable, basically. There's a few of you who are interested in some more professional positions. Sorry, the hiccups today. Excuse me. This has a list of dress from casual all the way up to something called business formal, which are going to be your lawyers, your politicians, your jobs that are traditionally very serious, very business oriented, so to speak. And then the range of dressing kind of reflects the seriousness of your work. So if you're looking to go into a more serious position, like a high level finance position, a political sphere, diplomatic sphere, United relations sort of direction, you're going to be wanting to have some more business formal level attires. This is not me saying that you have to go out and buy something. That's not at all what I'm hoping for. I'm just asking for when you come into your interview, your mock interview, that you put a little bit of effort into how you look. Because remember, these are supposed to be how you show yourself off, how you communicate that you're a hireable person, and something that just comes with maturity and showing that you guys are future ready. You guys are more adult centric. One last thing on some interview need to knows that you should have coming into your mock interview during these next 2 weeks. I noticed with the senior interviews, because you guys were choosing teachers that you already had relationships with, it's great. A lot of you forgot to introduce yourselves. I had no idea who I was talking to if I weren't already aware of you. So you always shake hands and introduce yourself when you start an interview. It's just one of those things, one of those dated things that we kind of keep doing because it sets a tone. It further communicates like, I am someone who should be listened to, which is a lot of what an interview outlines. Because you guys are all people who are worth listening to. You just have to show it in extra ways sometimes. So you always shake hands and introduce yourself so your interviewer knows who you're talking to.
and you want to thank them on the way out. Both of these seem like does, kind of gimmies, you know, but it is something that in the heat of the moment, in the nervousness of the interview action, thinking about how to best answer these questions that you've been presented with, is something that you might forget. It's kind of human nature to get caught up, go too fast, right? You guys are aware of this, I'm sure. These two things are, even if you have an interview that you're not super confident about, something that you're not super sold on, you're like, I could have done better. If you do these two things, you are going to present yourself to that interviewer, to that committee of people hiring you, in a way that is a little bit more like, oh, that person was still really friendly, or that person still had the confidence to say who they were, even if their questions weren't the most, even if they weren't the most confident in their answers, right? These seem like does, but they are things that I have forgotten in interviews before, and I haven't got the job. So learn from my mistakes, right? Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is when you are not interviewing, I have a research project for you to be doing so that you're not just working on nothing for the next couple weeks, 2 weeks to be exact. We'll talk about this more tomorrow, but it's basically talking about colleges that you're interested in, acceptance rate, costs of living, things to do around the area, programs, right? Doing a little bit of research on some colleges that you are interested in attending to or applying. We'll go over the application process after you finish up this research. So that's all I've got for you today. Thank you guys for listening. Once we go off the air, you can go back onto your phones. Just remember that your first deadline is tonight at midnight. Done is better than perfect. And there's a couple things to keep in mind with your interviewing process. If you're curious about what slot you signed up for, or if you need to sign up for a slot, come up, make a line up here. I will check for you. But we're going to start those tomorrow or during your block day. So you guys will be tomorrow. Any questions? Okay, perfect. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it very much. Let me know if you need help.